Labor Talks, recorded at Chippewa Valley Community Television in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Hello and welcome to Labor Talks. Today's special guest is John Manydeeds. John currently serves on the Eau Claire County Board from District 24, correct?
Correct.
Welcome to Labor Talks.
Thank you, Lori.
I'm glad you could come today. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
I can tell you a lot about me. I am an attorney in the Public Defender Office. I've been in the Public Defender Office about 30 years, a little less than 30 years. And I've been an attorney for almost 31 years, which will be this May. I have moved here to Eau Claire about 30 years ago, roughly. A little bit less, probably closer to 29, but in the ballpark. My wife and I fell in love with Eau Claire. This is where we raised our children. Our children have both graduated from high school. My son is a lawyer in town. My daughter's in graduate school at Madison. And we're very, very proud of them. And I've been on the county board for 7 years. On the county board, I am the chair of the Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee. I'm on the committee for the administration. I'm also on the Chippewa Valley Regional Airport Commission. In the past, I've been on UW Extension's committee, and I was also on the building committee for the new jail and adjustments at the courthouse. And I think the most important thing for people to take away is that I'm very active in this community. I've been active since I've been here. When I came to the community, I started working with high school students, coaching them for the annual mock trial competition.
Oh, cool.
Mock trial is a really interesting competition. Memorial does it currently. Regis, which is where I coach, does it. And there's a bunch of other schools in the area that do it. And it's a very challenging competition. It's really nice because we get to really know our students. These students, whether they're at Regis Memorial or anywhere else, are all excellent students and tremendously sharp and very quick, and they have an interest in the law. The amazing thing for me is that we've had a good number of my students have gone on to become lawyers, and one is an assistant to the head at CBS.
Oh, nice.
One of mine is the chief communications officer for Bill Gates. And, you know, I've had another student whom I'm also extremely proud of, who went to McAllister and as a part of her studies there, went to Kosovo and studied the legal system there and discovered how very chaotic that area is. And she was put in danger several times. It's a really good program, and I've been involved in that program ever since we came into town.
I wish our school would have had something like that. It sounds like a really cool
You
program.
know, I got to tell you, when I was a high school kid, I would never have done that program because it's pretty intimidating. You have to have a lot of guts to go up in front of people you've never met before, ask questions, and not have a clue what the answers are going to be, because every team practices it and they find different angles on what they're going to do. It's really an amazing process.
And for the kids to be able to, I would think, would really help with their self-esteem and self-confidence to do something like that too.
It absolutely does. I think the one thing I would say about the kids that have gone through 4 years of mock trial is that they can think on their feet and they speak exceptionally well. And it's a little different than forensics. When a student is in the forensics program, they, as most people who've ever been through forensics would know, they get a package of what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it, and they get graded on their presentation. In mock trial, you could have an attorney from one school cross-examining a student from another school, and both of them would get very good grades for how they handled it. It's really a very interesting process, you know, and there's the coaches spend a lot of time. There are people who do the judging. The unfortunate thing about judging, I think, mock trials, you don't really get to know the kids. You're there for a very short period of time, relatively speaking. You're there for either a morning or an afternoon, like 3-4 hours max.
And compared to coaching them, right?
Yes.
And you're part of the Public Defenders Union, correct?
Yes, I have been.
What can you explain a little bit about that union?
Our union is part of the Wisconsin Federation of Teachers, and before Act 10 occurred, our union was very active in negotiating salaries, in negotiating work conditions, and they provided a very good buffer between, the attorneys and management. And realistically, our union has essentially dissolved. I mean, I'm still paying union dues, but they can't negotiate really anything. And they're not a formally recognized union at this point, which is sad. However, if something were to come up and I would need help in litigating an issue against management, they would provide legal staff to help.
Well, that's at least it's something. Yeah?
It's something.
We got to turn it back around. John, you're on the county board right now. Can you tell us some of the issues that the county board's focusing on for 2016?
There are a lot of good issues coming up. First off, I think that the compensation study that we passed last year had some suggestions as far as what we should be doing this year to try to make the table more fair, the pay table more fair. Because right now, if you were working prior to the comp study coming in, you were moved up to the next spot in the scale regardless of how many years you've been working at the county, which created a lot of problems because in some of the jobs, the pay was so low for people that have been there for even 10 years that they all got lumped into the same group, and it caused problems. I can use the jail as a better example. We had people that have been working there for a very long time, and either they fell in the first square on their pay scale, or they fell into the second square, which is year 1 and year 2 of the pay scale. And we've had workers that were up there 20 plus years. And at the time, they understood that we couldn't afford as a county to put everybody in the appropriate box as far as their years of experience, because we just didn't have enough money to do that. But the compensation study suggested that we look at it, maybe not this year, but next year, as far as what we should be doing to even out some of these inequalities in pay as far as numbers of years of experience. It does create problems, and I've heard people say, my pay, and I've been here X number of years, is the same as that person, and that person just started. It created a lot of problems.
I know that I've spoke with a lot of people about raising the minimum wage, and a lot of times that even people that would normally be on the side of raising the minimum wage tend to be against it because they don't do anything to raise the pay for the person who's been there 25 years. And so that's good that they're looking at doing something to fix that inequality.
That was part of the recommendations from the people that did the study in the first place, is that we needed to go back in and review it. And whether the next board that comes in does that or not, that's up to that board to look at. But it's important, I think, from a morale point of view from the employees in the county, that it be reviewed, that it's going to be a big issue, I think, at some point in time. So you can't have that much experience that close to that little of experience. It does not give the people that have experience any incentive whatsoever to assist the people that are coming in.
Or to stay.
Or to stay. Well, and that's a problem too, is that one of the, I think, unintended effects of Act 10 as far as county employees are concerned, I think the thought was that we'd be able to dictate work conditions and dictate pay to county employees. And what is ending up happening is that county employees are figuring out this is a free market. We can go where we will. Once again, we'll go into the jail example. Our jail used to lose workers all the time because the pay wasn't as good as some other places, and they weren't considered to be a protected class, which was in some other jails. That's changed with some rulings that have come out. But when we built the new jail, we fixed a lot of the problems with working conditions. When we passed the compensation study, which is, I think, essentially middle range of what the market rate is for corrections officers, we started losing a lot of those, or quit losing a lot of those workers. We're retaining them longer. And other counties around here are losing them to us, whereas it used to be the opposite way around. And when Eau Claire County would lose a corrections officer, one of our administrators in the jail estimated it cost about $45,000 from when the previous person left to when the next person could actually start working independently up in the jail. Because they have to get certified. Well, before that, they have to go through the search process. They have to have psychologicals done. They have to be able to pass certain physical requirements as far as, the job is concerned, because it's a very physically strenuous job. And then they have to be trained, and then they have to be certified, and it takes quite a lot of effort to do all that. So we were losing jail staff before. I think we're not losing them as bad as we were before, but we're actually taking them from other counties. But what a disturbing trend has been is that a lot of the jail corrections officers here in Eau Claire and deputies in other jails have been leaving the profession for other jobs because the pay is better, or the hours are better, or there's a whole variety of things. I know a man up in Chippewa, for example, who quit and became a truck driver, and he loves it.
We have a state trooper in our subdivision who quit to become a train engineer.
Yeah.
They don't want the stress. They're understaffed, just like everybody. That's that much more dangerous when they're understaffed.
But, there are other issues that the county's going to have to deal with, too. I think really big issues coming up are going to be correcting all the roads that are out in the county. And these are not state highways. They're not the interstate. These are county roads that need work. And when you have a section that needs to be worked on, it's not like it's a cheap fix. I remember seeing some of the jobs that are going to be done. You have a mile of road that needs to be repaired and set back up to where it needs to be. It could be anywhere from $800,000 to $1 million just to repair that section. Very expensive. And we have bridges that need to be repaired, and that's going to be pricey. I think those are two of the bigger issues that we're going to be needing to work on. In addition to making sure that, obviously, that the other programs in the county are maintained. I had heard that UW Extension, for example, took a bit of a beating, as it were, just recently. And I don't know exactly what happened there, but I'm going to try to figure it out. But I know that they've had some losses there. And that affects a lot of programs. It's the only department in the county that is very proactive. They have a lot of very good programs. They have a program where they teach children how to raise vegetables and things of that sort during the summer, and teach them how to eat properly, what good nutrition is. We don't do that with any other program in the county.
There's a lot of good programs, like you said, that are being cut. We met with John Johnson recently, the Eau Claire County Highway Commissioner, and he said on a state level, the report card that came back from taxpayers in the state of Wisconsin, the lowest score was the D, and that was the condition of our highways. And so we talked about that for quite a while. We definitely need to fix roads and bridges.
Just for clarification, I don't know if that program has been heard or not that I was talking about with the children. I hope not. But that's something that we need to check and make sure that those types of programs stay in existence. Because if you have a program that helps children, you're doing a lot of good. But yeah, our roads are not good. All you have to do is drive around any of the county highways and you'll discover they are not in the best of shape.
Right. And so there's the programs and the highways. What other issues is the county board working on?
I think those are the primary ones. Obviously, we have the thing about making sure that our money is handled better due to the county treasurer's scandal. We have a resolution that we passed last session where we hired an accounting firm to come in and look at our practices. We really have a lot of holes in our practices that I think are easy fixes. I don't think that this is what Larry and Kay did were necessarily that tricky, but they figured out ways to obstruct and to hinder the process of the county board to supervise. By the way, that's all on us. What happened in the treasurer's office is on the county board supervisors, me included. We should have been, as a group, less reliant upon what was going on as far as coming up from committees and from the various departments and department heads. We should have been doing this much more aggressively. because it's our money, and it turns out it's a lot of money. You know, and if we just assume that the amount that is ordered for restitution, which I want to say is 640,000 roughly, if we had had that money and put it into the programs that they were being taken from, you know, you can do a lot with trails, you can do a lot with the parks, you can do a lot of other things. That money goes a long way.
Wow. It is, and for them, have you found a replacement? I mean, that's an appointed or elected
No,
position.
it's elected. The reason it was discovered was that the new treasurer came in and discovered it, and it didn't take long, from what I understand, for her to figure out what was going on. And she did a great job.
Finding it.
Yes.
Now, you said you've been on the Chippewa Valley Regional Airport Committee too. What's going on at the airport?
The big news at the airport is we have a new restaurant. We haven't had a restaurant since, I want to say, November of 14. And it's been very difficult to find a replacement restaurateur. The person that's coming out, I think his name is Bob Adrian. He owns Rumps in Altoona. We're not sure what he's going to be making yet. He's not sure yet, but it's going to be excellent whatever it is, because, you know, obviously if you go to Rumps, you know, you're getting really excellent food. He has standards. I've talked with him at length. He's a very amazing person to talk to, and I'm very optimistic that that restaurant's going to be outstanding. You know, we have some work we have to do out there first to make it better for him. The bar is separated from the rest of the restaurant by a wall, and he wants the wall removed. We're going to remove the wall.
Okay.
And there's some other things we're going to do, but I suspect that it will make it a destination location, especially for people on the north side. I mean, I talked to my neighbors, and I've been getting two things from the neighbors. Number one is, what's going to happen to Larry and Kay, which, you know, we're seeing part of that. And the other one tends to be, when are we getting a restaurant up at the airport? And that answer is soon.
Because it draws people in to come and spend time and spend money at the regional airport and fly out of there versus driving to the cities or catching the shuttle to the cities, correct?
Well, I think the airline, as I understand it, is, I want to say they're like 85 to 90% full on all flights. And granted, they're not the biggest of jets, and granted, when you fly to Chicago, you probably spend more time on the ground in Chicago than you do in the air. And I flew down there recently. It is true. But I think it's a very good program. I think it's helped a lot. I know that when we had the previous carrier, which was just commuting people into the cities, those flights were a very different nature than the people that are flying to Chicago. The Chicago flights tend to be primarily business people traveling for business. The people that were going to the cities tended to be younger families. Let's take a turboprop plane to the city so we can
Go to the mall.
The kids can see. Well, no, usually it was to catch a connecting flight, but usually it was for the adventure of taking the kids on a plane that had propellers.
I've been on some of those prop jets.
Yeah.
It was an experience tonight. It'll be okay if I don't have another one of those. And Judiciary and Law, you've been on that committee as well.
Yes.
The evidence-based system in the Eau Claire County courts, the decision-making, how has that been working?
It works well. Evidence-based decision-making is a process by looking and trying to figure out what works when dealing with crime. It is a way of looking at people and making sure that the services that they need are the actual services they're getting. I can give you some good examples. You know, I've been doing criminal law for 30 years. And I remember talking to some people about their kids who had picked up a pot charge. And they'd say stuff like, yeah, you know, a day or two in jail won't hurt them. And the study shows that it actually does hurt them, not because of the punishment aspect, but because they end up hanging out with the wrong people. So they go to jail, they're scared to death, which is what the intent is to scare them. And they end up meeting people who are used to being in jail, who are bad people, and those bad people take care of them in jail, tell them everything's going to be okay, and suddenly they have a friend who is not a good person. The evidence-based decision-making process looks at a lot of different issues, and one of the issues that they dwell on is who are this person's friends? Are they hanging out with people that are getting into trouble? Do they somehow need the tools to get away from them? Obviously, alcohol and other drug abuse is an issue, but generally speaking, the number one thing that they look at is who is this person hanging out with, and can we do something to fix it? If a person is put on probation, for example, today, the Department of Corrections actually has 2 entrances at their building, one for the minimum offenders and one for the more serious offenders. And they keep them separated because they don't want them mingling, so they develop quote-unquote new friends.
Well, because if they don't change their environment, or if it gets worse,
Yeah,
they're just going to recycle back in there
That's
and create worse crimes.
that's exactly what's happened. And we have seen some of the statistics lately from the Criminal Justice Corroborating Council, which has been showing that, and this is an interesting way of looking at it, but the number of people that are sitting in jail on drunk driving, for example, convictions, is decreasing in Eau Claire County, whereas it's not in any other county in the state. On the other hand, the number of people sitting there because of meth charges is increasing. I want to say in 2011, over 50% of the people sitting in jail, and I might be wrong on this, you can go to the website and check, were in there because of drunk driving convictions. Now it's closer to 27 or 28%, which is making our community a safer community. If you can help people who are drunk drivers, and drunk drivers are a danger to all of us, they really are. So if we can help them deal with the issue so they're not doing this kind of activity and that they've learned, we're making our community safer. On the other hand, the meth problem has gone from 2% in 2011 to 16% now. 16% of people sitting in jail are there on meth related offenses. And it is a problem because I'm on the methamphetamine response committee. We meet once a month. It's a problem because statistically speaking, the odds of you becoming addicted on your first use of meth is about 99%.
Ouch.
So if you have a person that samples meth, they very well may be an addict. And I was talking with a bunch of people last night about it, and a bunch of these people had been in jail for a while, and they were talking about you can spot the people in or on meth. They may be telling their attorneys, they may be telling the probation agents and law enforcement one thing about them not wanting it, but when those people leave, they're turning around and talking to everybody else and trying to figure out, once they get out, where can they get their next hit of meth.
So obviously meth has been an increasing problem here.
It's a huge problem here.
What about heroin and the other?
In this part of the state, the big problem is meth. If you go to the southeast section of the state, heroin is the issue. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm glad we don't have heroin as an issue. They're both horrible, horrible things. The problem with meth is that you end up with people that are making horrible decisions and getting violent. And that is a scary thing.
And it's hard for them to get out of it.
It is.
But it's easier for them to get into the cooking and I know there's got to be ways that our police to help our police to crack down on those things.
Well, the cooking thing doesn't happen as much anymore because we, as a community, were able to figure it out. The legislature passed laws and prohibited the on-the-counter sale of Sudafed, for example, which is the primary ingredient that they melt out in order to make meth. And so the ability of people to have these meth labs is gone. The number of meth labs in this area of the state have disappeared. The problem is that there is a pipeline of drugs coming in from China and from Mexico, and they seem to settle here in the western part of Wisconsin. And it's cheap, and if you are out in the community and you're hanging out with the wrong people, it's relatively easy to secure. That's why we need to work on people and making sure they're not hanging out with the wrong people. In Eau Claire, we have two things that happen. When a person is arrested, the judges follow something called the meth protocol, and they're told to report to the Community Transition Center, and they receive counseling, they receive treatment, they receive those skills. And if it continues, other things happen. And eventually, if it keeps going, the judges have been ordering cash bonds on them. That's why our population has been increasing on as far as meth is concerned. It's horrible.
In Wisconsin, do you feel that we're moving in the right direction?
I guess it sort of matters what you mean. If you're talking about health care, I don't really know. I know that as a state employee, I'm paying more for my health care. Is that a good thing? I don't think so, but everybody probably is at some level. If you're talking about labor rights and things of that sort, I would have to say no, it's not. And it's a thing where I think there was a position that was drawn which thought if we have jobs available, people will fill them. And what is being discovered is that's not the case. The Department of Corrections, for example, hires roughly 80,000 guards in the various prisons around the state. And of that 80,000, there are currently about, I think it's 15,000 positions that are open. So there is between 20 and 25% openings in the DOC for guards. And they can't fill them. They just can't fill them. Because in the old days with Act 10, the pre-Act 10 days, you had the union buffering between management and the workers. And people forget that when Governor Doyle was dealing with the shortfall that was occurring because of the 2007-2008 crash, that people were actually volunteering to take layoffs, to go on unpaid leave, as it were. I took 8 days, which is that's a lot of money, and the DOC, however, you couldn't actually do that because they have to actually be in the prisons, and they discovered that the hard way. But that would be one area that I would think is not turning out the way people thought it would, and it's becoming more of and if you're looking at it from simply a market point of view, if you have skills in certain areas as far as county government is concerned, you can pretty much name what you're going to get. Well, not name, but you can work around and see which county pays the best.
Right.
If you're a child support worker, if you're a corrections officer, for example, and there's a bunch of other positions that are highly trained, child support, for example, highly trained and requiring specific knowledge in order to succeed, you can go to a different county and say, I won't get paid less than X, and you might get that amount.
John, there's so many things I'd like to just sit and talk to you about because you're very knowledgeable on all these things, but we're running out of time today. I'll have to have you come back again. It's been great having you here. Today's program, we want to thank John for coming because, like I said, we can't do this without you.
Yep, thank you for having me.
Chippewa Valley Community Television is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, you can contact us by calling 715-839-5067 or on the web at www.cbctv.org.